you're lying. And I'm calling you out on it. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Allie. If you're new here, hello. If you're returning, welcome back. Thank you. I appreciate you for not being sick of me yet. It is reading wrap-up time for June, and this has been probably one of my most chaotic reading months that I've had in a long time. I have DNFs, I have 5 stars, I have everything in between. It was a very big Kindle month, checking off a lot of random stuff on my Kindle TBR. It was a wild ride, and I'm ready to take you on it with me. So I figured I would just go right down the line, like start with DNF and then 2, 3, 4, 5 stars and go through it that way instead of like what I read in what order. So my first 2 DNF were Kindle books, and the first one was The Golden Boys. I cannot tell you the first thing about this plot line. I DNF'd it so quick. I think it was bully romance, and that's why I didn't like it. But yeah, nothing memorable at all to that plot line. I could not tell you the literal first thing that happened in this book. I think I read maybe the first 50 pages and I dipped. It was a no from me, dog. And then the other was Before We Drown. In hindsight, this was a very small book. It was like 200-ish page book, but it was very insta-lovey. Apparently it's like a brother's best friend thing, but it was like, there wasn't any like pining and like groveling for each other. It was immediately just like they're together, PDA, like it didn't seem like a secrety brother's best friend. It was just like, I have a crush on this guy and now we're dating. So like it was a small book, so like I understand that there might not have been like the amount of time. She would have had to add like 100 pages to add that in, but I felt like it needed to be there. It was too insta-lovey for me, so I was done with it. I couldn't get any farther. And then my last DNF for the month was my only physical book, and that is The Night in Its Moon by Piper CJ. This has been on my TBR for a while, and I think I've mentioned it before that like this author had some like drama, so it was kind of look into it yourself if you feel like supporting this author or not. I had already bought the book before that whole drama situation went down, but I DNF'd it. So, and it has nothing to do with the author drama. It was just very slow for me. I really wanted to like it because it is supposed to be like LGBTQ characters, but the plot was very slow for me and I got bored with it, and I just kind of put it down and started reading another book and didn't pick it back up again. I got specifically to page 213, so like I got almost halfway through with it, but I was halfway through with it and nothing new was really happening. I think I might like try and get back into it at some point, but as of right now, it's a DNF. Okay, so now we have my books that I gave 3 stars. I feel like I never really give like 1 or 2 stars. My most common rating is a 3 or a 4. So I don't think I have any 1 or 2s this month. It's just kind of DNFs 3, 4, 5. But these are my 3 stars. So on my Kindle, my 3 stars were In the Weeds. This was one I just kind of stumbled across. It's kind of enemies to lovers, kind of second chance romance. I enjoyed it. It wasn't the best romance book on the planet. I've read a million of them, like as per my shelf going on over here. I've read a lot of them, and it was mid-tier. It was cute, but it wasn't 5-star material. Our main characters have a one-night stand at some point. They both are kind of like, they leave, go back to their lives, but they're just like, they're thinking about each other all the time. And then they wind up meeting together again for business, and they kind of realize who each other are, and they don't really want to make work awkward for each other, but there's also this weird unspoken thing between the two of them. And it was cute, but it kind of lacked depth for me. It wasn't groundbreaking and moving, but it was okay. And then A Game of Retribution. So this is part of the Hades saga for the Hades and Persephone series she has. I have read all 3 books that are in Persephone's point of view, and this is the second Hades point of view. It was 3 stars because it's the same series, just kind of told from Hades' point of view, and I personally like the Persephone point of view books better, but it wasn't bad. I still enjoy having this stuff in Hades' point of view. I guess I'm just a person that I would just rather have dual point of view in the same book instead of just writing the same book, but the other one just being the same plot in a different person's point of view. I guess it just makes more sense to me to just do it all in one book instead of writing the same book twice, I guess. But I still enjoyed it. I highly suggest this series if you want some smutty Hades and Persephone. I just personally like the Persephone, I just personally like the Persephone point of view books a little bit better. And then Good Girl Complex by Elle Kennedy. This again was just kind of meh, mid-tier. It was okay, though again, it didn't have any depth. It didn't necessarily make me feel things. It wasn't anything jaw-dropping, astonishing. This follows Mac and Cooper. Cooper is a local boy in this college town that Mac goes to. Mac comes from a super privileged rich family. Connor doesn't, so it's enemies to lovers in the sense that Connor and his friends hate Mac because she's rich and that's all they think she is. And Mac is just kind of like apprehensive about Connor and his friends because they are different from the people she grew up with. Unknowing to her, there's like a bet going on between her and Connor. It's a little bit of like kind of a fake dating situation. So it was okay, but I've read stuff better. I was expecting a lot more from this than what it gave, but yeah. So then my 4 stars were both Kindle books. The first one was Too Late by Colleen Hoover. Do not touch this book without trigger warnings. I'm not joking. This is one of Colleen Hoover's most intense books. In my opinion, I was legitimately scared reading this book. Like, I don't even think it's a thriller. Like, I guess it's a romance, but it's dark. Do not look in this book's direction without checking trigger warnings. This has everything in it, and it's terrifying, but I liked it. It was not my favorite Colleen Hoover book. This isn't necessarily one that I'm going to go out of my way recommending people because it is very dark. Please, for the 47th time, for the love of all things holy, check trigger warnings. So it's not going to be a 5-star for me for that aspect, but I didn't hate it. I would say, honestly, it's more of like a 3.5 star than a full 4 because it was very intense, but I didn't hate it. It was intense and it was dark, but I didn't hate it, I guess. I'm not even going to get into what this book is because trigger warnings, and I feel like there's not much I can really say about it without having to preface it with trigger warnings. But yeah, I love Colleen Hoover and her stuff, but this one is definitely the darkest thing from her that I have ever read. With it is The Hardest Fall by Ella Mays. This is kind of the opposite. It is not dark in any way. It's just a cute, sweet little romance book, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was nice. This book has a lot of like little meet cutes in it that I thought were cute and entertaining, and it's definitely like a quirky girl main character, but she didn't annoy me because sometimes there's a lot of like female leads that are like quirky but they annoy me. But this book was cute. Our main character has this crush on this boy Dylan, and they kind of bump into each other and have a bunch of these meet cutes before like Dylan like eventually asks her out, and it's kind of like a situation where they're like, we're gonna be best friends, and then it turns into more sports romance, friends to lovers with a lot of like awkward cuteness in it, and I thought it was good. So if it sounds interesting to you, I highly encourage you to check it out. It's been on my Kindle TBR for as long as I can remember that I've had a TBR. I don't know what possessed me to finally read it, but I wasn't disappointed. It wasn't a 5-star, but it was pretty close, and I definitely enjoyed it. Hello, it's editing me here with Editing Squishmallow on the couch. Editing this video, obviously, and I forgot to mention that I read The Maddest Obsession, which is the second book in the Maid series. I read the first one 3 or 4 months ago, and it was kind of like my first Mafia book, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it. So I was just kind of like, if I get to the rest of the series, I'll get to it. I don't know why I read this book this month, but I did, and I do like it a lot better than the first one. I still haven't read the rest of the series, but out of the 2 that I've read, this one was my favorite. I 3-starred it. I definitely am more confident to finish the series, but it's not like first thing on my list. But I did like it better, and I did read it because I have had people DM me that were like, blah, give it another chance. So this is for you. I gave it another chance, and I do like it better, but it's still not my favorite, but we're working on it. Back to our regularly scheduled content. And then finally, my 5 stars of the month. In my previous video, you know that I finished Throne of Glass. The last 3 books were 100% 5 stars for me. So the last 3 are Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, Kingdom of Ash. I will say that this is the last time I listen to people's opinions on the internet. Am I lying about this? Yes, because that's all I do. But I stopped reading this series for like 3 weeks because I was so scared to start this book because everybody was talking about how bad it was. I 5-starred it. It was one of my favorites. I get why people don't like Kael's character. I 100% understand that. I didn't like him for most of the books either. Is he still my favorite character even after this book? No. But this book was so good. The romance in it was amazing. The plot was great. I have no complaints about this book. So to everybody on the internet that was like, this book sucks and you're gonna hate it, you're lying. And I'm calling you out on it. The other 2 also 5 stars. It feels weird that I'm done with this series. It feels like I'm still supposed to pick up a next book that just basically talks about what they ate for breakfast and, you know, what the sky looks like at the moment, because it feels weird that the series is over. I don't really know what to do with myself. I think I need to finish Shatter Me. I've been saying for the past like 3 months that I'm gonna finish it, but I've been so wrapped up in Throne of Glass that it's kind of been put on the back burner. But in my other previous video, you know, I got the next Shatter Me series book. So I'm gonna hold myself to that this month and do my best to finish Shatter Me because I'm like half done with it anyways. And most of it's little small novellas. So I'm gonna hold myself to it, do my best to finish Shatter Me. That's definitely on the roster this month. In the SGM universe, I did a reread of Crescent City 2 because of the whole SGM universe thing going around. Finishing Throne of Glass, I was like, oh, this reminds me of this thing from Crescent City. So it was kind of like a skim reread. I did not sit here and read through every single page all over again. I was kind of just looking for specific parts. But I would say I read like page to page a solid half of this book again, but it's still 5-star. Hasn't changed. I still love this series very much. And then my last 5-star is a memoir. Previous memoir that I read was Everything I Know About Love by Dolly last name. And I think I gave it 3 stars because there were things in it that I liked, but I felt like I didn't connect to it because, Dolly Alderton. I didn't know who Dolly was, so I didn't feel like I could have that connection like with the author. This is a 5-star memoir because I very much connect with the authors, and that is the Stay Sexy, Don't Get Murdered memoir by Karen Killigraph and Georgia Hardstark. They are 2 of my favorite people on the planet. They have a true crime podcast called My Favorite Murder, and their tagline is Stay Sexy, Don't Get Murdered. And they are just 2 hilarious, funny individuals that are some of the most honest people on the internet. They are very open with their issues with mental health and going to therapy, and they are both very open with the fact that they have abused substances and have been alcoholics and had to go to rehab for things. And the comedy that they're able to bring through on their podcast, they wrote so well into this book. Like, this book made me laugh, it made me cry, it made me feel things. I tapped the crap out of this book and I thoroughly enjoyed it. This book was beautiful. I highly encourage you to read this. The authors are true crime podcasters, but it's not a book about true crime. Like, there's nothing where they're just retelling true crime stories. That's not it at all. I think that there are a ton of amazing things in this book that you will love. If you're somebody that's read Dolly Alderton and you don't know who maybe that person is, but you really enjoyed the book, I think you'll feel the same way about this. It's beautiful, it's moving, and I adore it. You want a good memoir, I highly, highly encourage you to read this one. I cannot recommend it enough. It was probably my favorite read of the month. But yeah, that is everything that I read this month. It was a bit of a chaotic month. There were definitely times where I DNF'd a couple books in a row and I did not want to start reading again because I felt like I was just gonna hate everything I read this month, but we pulled through. We finished Throne of Glass, which ruined me. Really gonna try and hold myself to finishing Shatter Me. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out with me on this very late night recording. It's past 10 o'clock right now. If you guys want to follow me on any of my social medias, they will be linked in the description box as well as on my home screen channel banner. Also down below will be my PangoBooks if you want to buy mine or other people's secondhand books. It's a cheaper way to fill up your TBR. And down below is also my Amazon wish list if you want to send me any books that are on there that you think I would enjoy reading for this month. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I love and appreciate you guys so much. You have no idea. But please stay safe, and I will see you guys somewhere else on the internet. Bye.